From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I'm Carla Gonzalez, and this is From the South. We start in Venezuela. President Nicolás Maduro says authorities now know where the cyber attack on the country's electrical grid was launched.
Hemos descubierto muchas cosas.
We have found out a lot of things. We have evidence that the cyber attack was ordered from the US. I can only say from now that the attack was sent from the US cities of Houston and Chicago. It was an attack against the electric system, telecommunications, and the internet. It was a persecution against Venezuela ordered by the Pentagon.
President Maduro also announced the creation of a special commission to investigate this attack.
I have created a special commission to investigate the cyber attack. I have asked for the integration of international experts, the UN support, and the countries such as Russia, China, Iran, and Cuba, which have experience with this kind of attacks. The commission to investigate this attack, the biggest in history, will be led by the Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, and it will be integrated by the Public Ministry, the Attorney General, and the scientific institutes of our country.
The Venezuelan government announced that electricity is back in almost all of the country, but the Minister of Communications warned that everyone should remain on alert due to the possibility of more attacks.
At this time, almost all the electricity supply has been restored in the whole of the country, in an effort led personally by President Nicolás Maduro. He was there at the command center alongside the workers of Corpo Elec, in permanent communication with the Vice President, who was in the field in Guyana, overseeing the supply of electricity from our 3 hydroelectric dams. We can and we have the right to claim victory, but we must not lower our guard, because the electricity war continues. Since the Venezuelan right decided that this was a reasonable way to attack the Venezuelan people, this war has caused more than 200 deaths, including people electrocuted in earlier acts of sabotage. More than 150 electricity substations damaged, millions worth of losses in electrical equipment. And of course, as soon as the electricity goes off, that affects the water systems, the health system, the banks, and the internet. This electricity war continues. But President Donald Trump, you made a mistake. Mr. John Bolton, you made a mistake. Mr. Marco Rubio, well, I won't even mention you, a psychopath like Juan Guaidó. Mr. Pompeo got it wrong too. You chose someone who is capable of saying what was immediately contradicted by an expert who is very much on the side of the opposition. This expert says some are saying that the Guri plant couldn't be hacked because it has an analog system. But that's false. The system is digital with the latest technology. That's what he said.
Our correspondent in Caracas, Laura Prada, has the latest.
Hello, and yes, nice to greet you at this time. As you can see behind me, Caracas, the capital city of Venezuela, is lighting up. As you can see, there are still some places that are waiting to recover power supply, but almost the full city, the entire city, has lit up. Even though there are some parts of the capital and some parts of the country that electricity haven't arrived yet. Just a few moments ago, President Nicolás Maduro has been speaking to the people of Venezuela, accompanied by the government members, the Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, the President of the Constituent Assembly, Diosdado Cabello. Each of them, he named them part of the commission that will investigate what happened in this attack to the national electrical system. Also, today, earlier, the Minister of Communication, Jorge Rodriguez, said that almost more than 80% of the capital of the country had already recovered the electricity, and that more than 150 substations, electrical substations, suffered serious damages during this national blackout. Also, that the main reason that the nation has recovered so fast is because of the Venezuelan people, their resistance in this electrical attack that suffered the country. This is what's been taking place here. We were out today in the streets, and Caracas is going back to normal, to daily life. People were in the streets buying groceries. The transportation hub, the metro, which is the main way of transport here in Caracas, haven't started working yet, but there are some routes disposed by the government that people can use to move around the city, and everything is going back to normal. So we'll be here, we'll continue informing. We can say at this minute that electric supply here in Venezuela, specifically in Caracas, has stabilized and is almost complete in the entire country. We'll continue updating, so keep in touch.
That was Laura Parada from Caracas. And the Venezuelan government said that drinking water would also be restored in the coming hours. So how have people in poor neighborhoods survived and resisted for the last 6 days? Our correspondent Madeline Garcia went to find out.
We are heading into the center of Petare, the biggest poor neighborhood in Caracas. Throughout almost all of the capital and the country, the electricity is back on. The mood here and people's attitude is surprising after so many days without electricity.
We understand that they had us by the neck, but that doesn't mean we are going to go and scream about it. We know we have been at war for a long time, but it's clearer now because they are going for our water and our electricity. Maybe there'll be an attack on our gas supply next, but here in the hood we are calm. These people are very aware. Chavez taught us a long time ago that we solve things through the ballot box.
It is at the ballot box that the people decide. And they did decide. People here are clear that they don't want anything imposed from abroad, and they are resisting.
We made lamps with diesel and stuff. That's how we got light here. People came to us for one and we gave them out.
People came together?
Yes, there was a lot of solidarity.
Why are the barrios so calm?
Because we don't want war. We want to be left in peace.
There is a lot of awareness here, a lot of maturity. People want peace.
This is a psychological war against the people. They want to bring down the government. They want to turn the people against the government. They are pushing them. Those people abroad have always wanted to get hold of the country's oil.
It's young people who are reflecting the most, as they experience one of the hardest moments in their lives, about the threats from the United States and its allies, and the vulnerability that their families face.
People are resisting. They don't want to get into a war. They're waiting to see what happens. When the lights come back on, people are happy. And even if it goes off again, they are still happy and they go out into the streets.
The sun always rises in Venezuela, and 6 days after the attack on the grid, almost all of the electricity in Venezuela is back on.
Health officials in Venezuela are rejecting media reports that say at least 10 children died in the José Manuel de los Ríos hospital. This as a result of the power outage in Caracas.
Mentira, no tiene nada que ver.
It's a lie. This has nothing to do with the reality we experience here in the José Manuel de los Ríos hospital. Just like everyone else in Venezuela, we also suffer from the situation here at the hospital. But thank God, we were prepared for it with our emergency power generations, and we have been able to handle the situation. Our staff managed to stabilize everything and ensure that the children are receiving the required treatment.
Now to Brazil. Following the arrest of 2 military policemen suspected of killing a black gay activist, Mariel Franco, her mentor, Marcelo Freixo, says now the focus should be on finding the mastermind behind the murder.
This is a crime against democracy because this is a crime against a representative of the people. It's not a crime against someone that was guilty of something or that was in the middle of a shooting. This was a planned crime against a local councillor, against a member of parliament of a city as important as Rio de Janeiro. Whoever killed her did it for a political reason. That's why it's a crime against democracy.
We have more stories coming up. We'll be back.
The life is full of moments. Moments of fight. Moments of hope. Moments that transcend. Moments that you can live in. Telesur documentaries. Sundays. Only on Telesur. Discover the cultural diversity that defines a continent. The place where art and tradition are part of the same nucleus. Artistic expressions. Values. Passion and more. Real life. Fridays. Only on Telesur.
Welcome back. The Mexican government and the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights have signed an agreement to relaunch the investigation into the disappearance of the 43 Ayotzinapa students. Our correspondent Eduardo Martinez has more.
The Mexican government and the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights have signed an agreement to follow up the investigation into the forced disappearance of 43 students in Ayotzinapa. Relatives of these students are satisfied with this agreement because it's another step towards meeting their demands. The disappearances took place on September 26 and 27, 2014, and still nobody knows where these students are. The families accuse the government of former President Enrique Peña Nieto of not willing to clarify what happened. But with the new government, a truth commission has been set up, including government, authorities, international experts, and relatives of the victims, as well as groups of lawyers and human rights advocates. A new special prosecutor is also set to be named to lead the case. More experts will be joining in the coming months to help with the investigation. It is expected that this can establish a new way of solving cases for thousands of disappearances in Mexico. Let's recall that in Mexico, over 40,000 people have disappeared as a result of the violence in the country.
That's Eduardo Martinez from Mexico. And the president of Uruguay, Tabaré Vázquez, has sacked the head of the army. The removal of General Guido Manini Rio came as a surprise, even though he had questioned a number of government policies. Manini Rios comes from a traditional political family, as his grandfather was one of the founders of the Colorado Party. 2 new icebergs have broken off a glacier in Chile's Patagonia region, causing alarm among scientists. The icebergs broke away on February 20th and March 7th, after a larger block of ice, the size of 3 football fields, split away from the glacier. Scientists say global warming is increasing the frequency of these types of breaks. Still in Chile, Latin America's first thermal solar plant is being set up in the Atacama Desert. The Cerro Dominador plant is being built in one of Earth's driest places. It's made up of a 250-meter tower surrounded by more than 10,000 giant mirrors that project solar heat to the tower. There, the collected energy heats up water, and the steam propels a turbine that generates electricity. Starting in 2020, it will generate power for around 250,000 homes.
We can't, as a society, stay with solar panels or wind energy. We have to keep investigating to get green energies that are really manageable.
In Guatemala, campesino families from the city of Quetzaltenango who are living in a property owned by the state have reported that they are victims of prosecution, threats, and criminalization. They say they are claiming their historic right to own the land.
These campesino families have reported threats and prosecution from a landowner who says he is the owner of a property of 903 hectares.
The workers of the property are harassing us. They come to chase us and they say they are going to catch some of us. But until the landlord comes and shows us his own ownership documents, we are not going anywhere.
The group of families said that they are the historical owners of the place in which they have been living for 9 months. Since then, they say they have been held hostage and have been receiving death threats.
We have been intimidated several times. Today, in the morning, a car followed me and they captured one of my companions.
We get shot at during the night. 2, 3, 4 bullets. We don't want more violence. They already told us they want to make peace. But where is the peace?
The victims said that they are prosecuted by a family who have links with the powers of the state.
Bribes are very powerful, even up to the president, Jimmy Morales. And the Torre-Viarte family. Adela Torre-Viarte is a woman who thinks she is the mother of Guatemala.
The families report that, more than 5 centuries after the colonization, the state hasn't recognized their right to own the land.
The land was given to that man. But if he is not from here, from this land, he has to leave because he has already taken so much from us.
The story of these families is part of a series of dispossessions that campesino families have suffered since the so-called liberal reform started in 1871, led by General Justo Rufino Barrios.
March 20 is Budget Day in Barbados. That's when Barbadians will hear about the country's financial standing. The Caribbean nation continues to make good economic progress almost a year after it approached the International Monetary Fund for a loan.
Next Wednesday afternoon at 3:30 p.m. I will deliver the annual budget of the country, and will do so as we for the first time take the second reading of the annual appropriations bill, bringing together a process that was hitherto separated for all of our previous experience. And the reason for it is this, that numbers make no sense unless I can show the country and we can agree as a country where we are going.
A teachers' strike in St. Lucia shut down schools across the country on Tuesday. The educators took part in a nationwide walkout over stalled salary negotiations with the government. They instead attended an emergency meeting convened by their union. Proposals for the 2016 to 2019 negotiating period were resubmitted 7 months ago, but the government has not yet responded.
The message that we got here today is that clearly the teachers are frustrated in the current situation. Today was basically to discuss the whole issue of negotiations. The collective agreement, the current collective agreement ends on March 41st. And we have been doing everything through the Trade Union Federation to get the government negotiating team to work with us so that we can settle the negotiations. And they've just been delay and delay and delay.
The fight against crime continues in Trinidad and Tobago. Police have retrieved automatic assault rifles and drugs during several raids. The exercises were coordinated by the police commissioner, who sent a stern warning to criminals. And Tobago is targeting the German tourism market. This as the island seeks to use Condor Airlines to increase its visibility and open new markets. A channel to reach wider Europe is being explored due to uncertainty with the island's largest market, the UK. The newly appointed Prime Minister in Algeria, Noureddine Bedoui, has pledged to meet protesters' demands. Bedoui, the former Interior Minister, met with the predecessor on Tuesday. He was appointed by President Abdelaziz Bouteflika, who has abandoned his bid for a 5th term.
I promise all citizens that we will day and night be listening to the people, getting closer to them and serving them, especially during these calls. In all honesty to the Algerian people, as the power of our election as a government, we promise to materialize all their demands. All members of my government will accompany me on this difficult task and responsibility. God willing, we will be up to this task.
And one of South Africa's largest banks has come under fire after an investigation revealed that it charged black clients higher interest rates on home and personal loans than white clients. Special investigation by a group of journalists revealed that the First National Bank charged black clients 40% more than white clients. The South African Federation of Trade Unions has said it will take the bank to court to ensure that it is held accountable.
Watch specialist.
We're taking one last break. Stay with us.
The life is full of moments. Moments of fight. Moments of hope. Moments that transcend. Moments that you can live in. Telesur documentaries. Sundays. Only on Telesur.
Pakistani journalist Tariq Ali examines the mass media influence promoted by imperialism. Get access to the analysis of the socio-economic and political life of the whole South America on our screen and platform in English. A critical place committed to the truth to determine the major events that transform the world today. On Monday, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. A fresh vote will take place in the British Parliament a day after Prime Minister Theresa May's Brexit plan was defeated by 149 votes. Lawmakers have begun debates on whether to leave the EU without a deal on March 29. They will vote on the measure later today. If that fails, members of Parliament will vote on Thursday on whether to request an extension of the exit date.
On a point of order, Mr. Speaker, I profoundly regret the decision that this House has taken tonight. I continue to believe that by far the best outcome is that the United Kingdom leaves the European Union in an orderly fashion with a deal. And that the deal we've negotiated is the best and indeed the only deal available.
The government has been defeated again by an enormous majority, and they must now accept their deal, their proposal, the one the Prime Minister has put, is clearly dead and does not have the support of this House. And quite clearly, no deal must be taken off the table.
An Australian cardinal has been sentenced for sexually abusing two 13-year-old choir boys in 1996. Cardinal George Pell could spend up to 6 years in jail with no chance of parole for 3 years and 8 months. Pell held a position of high authority in the Catholic Church, which has been reeling from similar scandals on a global scale.
Today is a victory for not just Australians but globally, because today we sent a message that our children are important and their lives matter, and in the future we create good people by treating them well. And these people who call themselves the good and the just have to see not just us as children but our entire society. No more.
At least 40 countries and multiple airlines around the world have grounded the Boeing 737 MAX airplane except the United States. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration has said that there is no basis for grounding the aircraft. Meanwhile, investigations still are underway to establish what caused that model's crash in Ethiopia that killed all 157 people on board. The United Nations have warned about a plan by the government in Bangladesh to transfer thousands of Rohingyas refugees to an isolated island. The UN Special Rapporteur for Human Rights in Myanmar says that the plan of transferring around 23,000 Rohingyas in April could potentially create a new crisis. A case could be opened against Myanmar due to its treatment of the Rohingya people.
And this is not the first. I am very hopeful, and I think that this is something that was unprecedented, and it is a tiny step forward, but I really do wish that this would open the floodgates, as you say. And it was a very important, Hamida's group, Shanti Mohila, they were the ones that were responsible in getting the ICC, the prosecutor, to even discuss this, to even decide to accept the situation, the case.
Today, I'm here to request to all of you three things. First, we want to seek justice. We want justice with compensation. Second, we want to return to our home with safety and dignity. And we want to have full citizenship. And third, we want to have access to education system in Myanmar.
At least 22 civilians have died after several airstrikes by the Saudi-led coalition in the north of Yemen. According to the United Nations, women and children were among the victims. Thousands of people have been killed and more than 2 million have fled the country since the war began in March 2015. At least one Palestinian has been shot dead by Israeli forces in the West Bank. The Palestinian Health Ministry identified the victim as 23-year-old Muhammad Shaheen. The incident occurred when clashes broke out after Israeli soldiers entered a northern city to remove security cameras. Earlier in the day, another man was also killed by Israeli troops after he approached them with a knife. And scuffles have broken between the Israeli police and Palestinians at a sacred compound in the city of Jerusalem. The clashes took place after the Israeli police closed the complex gates and tried to force people out, saying a firebomb was thrown at a police post. The place is at the same time the third holy site in Islam and the location of the Jewish most sacred spot. And today marks 40 years since the Grenada Revolution and the leadership of Maurice Bishop. So with that, we come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. For our viewers in Africa, you can find us on Starsat channel 461 in South Africa and 529 in Nigeria, and you can join us on social media as well. For Telesur English, I'm Carla Gonzalez. Thank you for watching.